Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project TAS. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 2. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode, or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order, in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? If you thought my previous rant about Weapon was unflattering, it gets even better with its follow-up, Horizon. Not the worst of Blake 7, not even the worst of Season 2 in my opinion, but if you think that means there are a few redeemable aspects that make this at least watchable, I'm afraid the phrase few and far between comes into the frame. Makes the episode title Horizon kind of appropriate for that reason. The redeemable aspects are so far away you can only see them on the horizon. Where Weapon didn't use its main cast, Horizon makes them ineffectual. Where Weapon's plot and characters stumble in their development, Horizons are pretty much at a standstill. Where Weapon is flabby, Horizon is just plain dull. The costumes are quite interesting. The production is admittedly one of the better efforts for trying to look alien and off-worldly, and the acting isn't terrible. Not by everyone, anyway. It's just a bit dull. Right, that's the good bits out of the way. If I come across any more, I will include them during my justification for not giving any stars to this episode. Don't expect those aspects to change my overall perception of this episode, though. We start with a random fading in and out of first Villa's and then Jenna's respective faces, for some reason, before we close in on the Liberator. We learn that having the most advanced ship in the galaxy doesn't make things that much easier for our intrepid crew, and that they are all suffering from various syndromes of exhaustion, or fatigue shock, as it's referred to in the episode. We also learn that they have flown far outside the borders of the Federation and should hopefully be out of harm's way. After a freighter comes across them, nearly smacking into them, they come across a planet surrounded by a swirling magnetic barrier. They learn that this planet, codenamed Horizon, is visited annually by the Federation, but no more. And since it is situated outside Federation space, it may be an ideal location for them to set up a base. As Blake says, he is tired of running, and that they must get one planet to call their own. The second part of this statement sounded a little bit too much like taking over a planet rather than establishing a base or a home, which is what I suspect Blake meant when he said that he was tired of running. Is Blake running out of steam? Just as the initial premise sets up, everyone is tired of being pursued, tired of the fight, and despite the goal and their accomplishments so far, sometimes one needs a break. That's the problem they face. They're unlikely to get any guaranteed period of respite. This could have been made a bit more of an interesting story, but you kind of know they were never going to go down this line, and that it would be about the mysterious planet Horizon. For me, it's a mystery that was better left unsolved. Blake and Jenna teleport down to Recce the planet and are very quickly captured by some native persons in jungle-themed attire and armed with blowpipes. They are accompanied by some Federation guards who have chosen not to adopt the dress of the day. Blake and Jenna are firstly tortured by a Federation elder and then treated reasonably by someone called Ro, who dons the same clothing as the Federation brass, but was apparently originally a native of the planet, and up to the Federation's arrival would have been wearing the same jungle-themed clothing. Ro is the leader of the people, the ruler, as he's constantly and tediously referred to, although he has the backbone of a wet fish, and he's manipulated at will by the Federation elder, who from now on I will refer to, if I do refer to him again, as the Commissar. How Ro became leader is a mystery, although it might have something to do with his father, who evidently had more cojones than his son. I assume he was the planet's leader before he became the Federation's puppet, or maybe the natives, or the primitives as they're referred to, don't mind who their leader is. The episode tries to draw this into the episode Spacefall, indicating that Blake actually knew a friend of Ro's on the London, the ship that was escorting everyone to Cygnus Alpha, and that friend died on the London, but that Ro was never told of his death. The relevancy of this plot point is questionable, and as far as I can tell doesn't really do anything other than suggest to Ro that the Federation actually sucks. If this hadn't occurred to him already, well, it should have done. They're sending Ro's people to die in a radioactive mine, where they extract a super-duper ore that's needed for Federation ships, hence why the Federation are here. But Ro is perfectly aware and fine with his people being sent to this unpleasant death, even sending his other half Selma into the mine as punishment for being a stubborn lass. I mean, for you who haven't watched this episode, based on what I've told you, do you have any sympathy for Ro? And for those who have already watched Horizon, is there anything really that interesting in watching Ro in general? And for both people of these categories, don't you feel like driving your knee up between Ro's legs and screaming, "Are you actually a man?" A rather chauvinistic response, no doubt, but my god, George McFly could have taken on the Federation sooner than Ro. All the plot really hinges on is for Ro to actually man up, and unfortunately this takes the whole episode. Our heroes don't really have any involvement in Ro's awakening, other than somehow knowing more about Ro than they should. Their real contribution to this episode is getting caught by the Primitives, which 5 of our 6 heroes do pretty much one after the other. Only Avon demonstrates some proper intellect and works out what is happening to his comrades, but he only does this after he thinks better of abandoning them. And let's face it, none of us really expected him to leave them. So we're waiting for Ro to eventually stand up for himself and his planet, and maybe not let his missus get tortured, and we're watching Blake and his crew get captured, get naked, and put to work in a rather horrible looking cave. Boring, pedestrian, and looking at Gang get stunned by the dart and then keep walking towards them instead of shooting them with the gun that is in his hand is a bit stupid as well. Even Avon's rescue isn't anything beyond the routine, and the final encounter with the 3 pursuit ships might be on the clever side in terms of its resolution, but I've given up caring by this point. It really is pretty boring. I mean, sometimes a stupid episode is still entertaining, but not so here, I'm afraid. After Ro has apparently liberated his people, Blake says that the Federation will send more envoys. Selma says that they will fight. A pity that the Liberator couldn't have encountered Horizon at this point, meeting a more dynamic Ro and his no BS girl as they fight off the Federation. Maybe this would have been a better episode. What do you think? Unfortunately, what we get is what we have, or vice versa. 2 excellent episodes followed up by 2 dreadful ones, and this one is worse than Weapon. I wish I could say that this is as bad as it gets for Blake 7, but regrettably it's not. And for me, the worst of the worst is not that far away. That concludes my review on Horizon. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please feel free to check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And I will be introducing Blake to something called Atkins. Cheerio!